Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be going over the entire Bleach Collab REM that's returning back to Puzzle & Dragons on Boxing Day, which is Monday, December 26th. So, to mark this monumentous occasion, Gung Ho has actually revamped older cards as well as providing newer cards to roll for. And because we've actually acquired this Rare Machine collab relatively fast after Japan, all of these cards are well positioned in terms of power creep because of the fact that they're very new and Gung Ho really wants us to roll for them, so they have to make them appealing. So for many of those factors, it means a lot of the cards that do come out of the machine are very powerful and have relevance right away and should have relevance for quite some time to come. In addition, all the cards that come out of this machine qualify as assistants for skill inheritance, so don't be too hasty when selling off those silver eggs. And furthermore, all players above rank 50 will actually receive a free pull, and basically you can acquire one card for free. It may be a silver, but hey, it's a card you got for free, so you really can't complain. So, as an overview for the collab, there are there are 4 6-star rolls available, 5 5-stars, and 5 4-stars. As with any collab, the roll rates are not relative to the number of cards available. 6 stars will be much more rare than 5, and then 4s will be even more common compared to the 5 and 6 stars. So be prepared for obviously more silver eggs than gold eggs, even though there are 9 available. So first off, Ichigo actually has 2 different evolutions that dramatically change his playstyle and uses, so I'm going to be going over both of them to help you decide which evolution is right for your team. So first off, we have Dark Blue Ichigo, and he actually has a God typing, which is completely irrelevant because he lost his full board changer for Raw Dragon teams, but he trades his God Killer for Devil, and he has a brand new active skill. And his active skill actually increases with each Dark Row Awakening on your team. And the mathematical formula is 1 plus 0.5 times n, where n is the number of Dark Rows on your team. I'm going to go into more detail about this later, and it's on a 20-turn cooldown. In addition, his leader skill has been changed into a very row tank-esque style in that he has 1.5 times health and attack for dark, and you actually gain 4 times attack when matching 6 connected dark orbs, and there's 7 times attack with 8. He also has no skyfalls. However, he actually becomes a 2.25 times health, 110.25 times attack leader with no conditions otherwise. There are no type restrictions, there is only the fact that you get to be a dark monster. So his team building options are wide open. You can use any dark sub you wish. Furthermore, he actually is bind immune, so he's actually quite a safe leader to play. So, like I said before, the Dark Blue Ichigo is a dramatic change from the previous Ichigos because he lost his full board changer, and he now has what is essentially the most powerful single-turn damage enhancer active in the game, I'd say. Because a Gemstone Princess's formula is 1 plus 0.3 times n, whereas Ichigo is actually 0.5. So he is significantly more powerful because, for instance, if you have, say, 10 Dark Row Awakenings, which is very doable in today's meta, you would actually have 6 times attack for 1 turn. So you have an insane amount of burst damage of that. Pretty much everything will die at that point, and that's pretty amazing. And I think that's why they gave him a 20-turn cooldown, because it's such a powerful enhance that no boss in the game can feasibly survive that, to be honest. So you have more than enough damage to kill any boss. Furthermore, you actually have a very powerful leader skill with just 8 orbs. There's no combo restriction. You just need to match 8 orbs and 110 times damage. So he has value, obviously, as a leader, even as a sub, or as an inherit. So you got to keep all those factors in mind. And like I said, as a leader, he has this 2.25 times health and the large multiplier for attack. Now, lots of health is great, but lots of health also means that you are vulnerable to healing up. Because, yes, you can tank large hits, but you may not be able to recover from them. And you may slowly die over time in a longer dungeon. So that can be problematic. Furthermore, you rarely would need a giant damage enhance twice in a dungeon, considering your team already has 110 times attack. And actually running dual Ichigos can be problematic because you actually have two long cooldown actives that you really only need one of. So because of it's a 20-turn cooldown, it's very hard or challenging to actually inherit a different active over top of him. So in order to address like the lack of recovery and kind of the redundant damage enhancing component, you may wish to actually pair with No Banana. I can't say his name, so he's No Banana. And No Banana is a leader that provides 9 times attack and 1.5 times recovery for devils when connecting 6 Dark Orbs. So his leader skill is very similar in that you have the same style requirement connecting Dark Orbs to deal damage. Furthermore, No Banana is also Bind Immune and also has Devil Killer, so he's almost the exact same as Ichigo, except he actually loses out a skill boost. So, or 2 skill boosts, I don't recall, but the point being is he's almost identical to Ichigo, and it's a very good alternative pairing because you actually gain that recovery and you gain a much more valuable active skill. He provides 6 Dark Orbs on a 7-turn cooldown along with 3 turns of bind clearing. So both your leaders are bind immune, you can clear binds, you can also generate 6 Dark Orbs for guaranteed activation. So this is great, you have a easy access to reliable damage with his short cooldown active, and it adds diversification. And your team actually becomes 1.5 times health, 94.5 times attack, and 1.5 times recovery for devils. Now, I know Ichigo is not a devil, so he won't be benefiting from the full multiplier, but the rest of the team will, and you still should have more than enough damage, and you still have Ichigo's burst, and that will pretty much blow up anything already. So this is quite a strong pairing. It helps address a lot of the weaknesses that dual Ichigos may face. So I feel like this is probably the better option in most scenarios, to be honest. And then, last but not least, the no Skyfall clause on Ichigo means that any orbs that fall down afterwards cannot match. So if you have, like, say, Skyfall enhancing subs, like, say, Shamali, Persephone, you will actually be able to activate more consistently because normally if you're playing a regular team, you clear the orbs, they all fall down, you might get additional Dark Skyfalls, which kind of wastes them because they get matched, you already had enough damage anyway, so they just go to waste. Now, with the no Skyfall clause, the orbs will fall down, they can connect, but they will not trigger a match. So on your next turn, you can easily arrange them into a row, and you don't have to use another orb changer afterwards. So this could help you with longer dungeons where you want orb conservation. It's a great way to basically save actives. Furthermore, with the no Skyfall clause, you can guarantee yourself perfect damage control because no combos will be matched without your consent. Next is Dark Ichigo, and he is basically an upgraded version of what we have come to love about him. He provides a full board change that creates all 6 elements, so fire, water, wood, light, dark, and heal, as well as 1.5 times time to move orbs on an 8-turn cooldown. So basically you are able to move orbs for a longer period of time for 1 additional cooldown if compared to Dark Kali. In this evolution, he gained actually a time extend and a 2-prong, as well as pointless enhanced material killer awakenings. We don't need these at this point in the game. Maybe it's foreshadowing for something to come in the future, but for now, they're just awkward awakenings. You still have the God Killer, not the Devil, like his Dark Blue form, so you will be effective against God-type bosses. As a leader, Dark Ichigo forms 100 times attack, 6.25 times recovery leader when you match all 6 elements, and use an active skill. You have to use an active skill to trigger the recovery and bonus damage, otherwise you could be hitting like for only 16 times damage. That's just sad without an active skill. And it's that active skill clause that makes him an inefficient leader because you cannot stall because you don't have a recovery bonus unless you use an active. So that's counterintuitive to stalling. Furthermore, when you use the active skill, you're triggering bonus damage, so you're probably going to kill the floor anyways. So there's no way to feasibly stall with this team. Like, yes, it does hit 100 times, but 100 times is not necessarily anything special in today's day and age where Raw Dragon, Ranave, or Rainbow leaders who hit much harder. So this is a problematic spot for Dark Ichigo. It just doesn't have a great fit in today's meta as a leader. But if you are insistent on using him as a leader, you want to obviously try and bring a bind recovery because he's vulnerable to binds, a shield because there's no health multiplier, and you have a lower dependency on board changers just because your leaders already have one between the two, or 2 in total, I should say. So we should probably step outside the leadership point of view and examine him from a sub point of view. And as a sub, he lacks God typing, so he can't be used on Raw Dragon teams effectively. And it's not necessarily a perfect sub for Ronave because Ragnarok Dragon does the job better. So he's not a best in slot sub for any team at this point in time. Yes, other Rainbow leaders can still use him effectively, but they're just not as proficient, presently speaking. Maybe in the future we'll gain a Rainbow-esque leader who can benefit from Dark Ichigo better, but at this point he's kind of lacking in that department. So at this point in time, I honestly feel like he's going to become a skill transfer onto Dark Callies in the future, because when the changes to skill inheritance go live in, say, a month or two, when you inherit a same attribute card to your base, you actually gain stat bonuses, and because Dark Ichigo is Dark Callie is Dark, you gain additional bonus stats. So that may end up be where you use your Ichigo if you have the ideal Raw Dragon team. However, you are able to actually use Ichigo in a less evolved form, and that retains the God typing, so he can be Dark Callie substitute, but then at that point you're losing out a lot of awakening and stats, but to be fair, if it has God typing, it's well worth it in that scenario. Next is Yamamoto, and Yamamoto puts Shiva Dragon to shame in all honesty, because he actually is 100 times damage leader when you match 6 connected fire orbs. That's the only restriction, 6 connected fire orbs for 100 times damage. That becomes the easiest 100 times damage leader available in the game. It takes very little skill to activate. You need to make one combo and you do 100 times damage. Furthermore, his active skill provides a massive orb change, which is akin to Ares, except you gain +1 combo for 2 turns at a cost of 4 additional turns of cooldown. Whether that's valuable or not remains up to you, but the point being is you have you have a way to flood the board with fire orbs and increase your combo count, and you shouldn't really have an issue of combo shields, just because a single row and then other combos are easy to make with 100 times that will kill most things in the game. Furthermore, 5 fire rows is amazing, but you do lack skill bind resist, so you have to build your team intelligently. Now, like I said, it puts Shiva Dragon to shame because in terms of raw speed, Yamamoto will be incredibly fast and significantly harder hitting. Yes, you don't have the recovery component, but that's not that big a deal. Plus, you can actually use any sub because there's no type restriction either. Now, Yamamoto, you may feel like you want to use him kind of like a Liu Bei, but Fire doesn't necessarily have a great alternative to Zeus Dios, just because Suture is not as efficient. Each going one resets your health to 1, and it's just not as ideal. However, because you only have to connect 6 fire orbs, you can team build like a normal team in all essence and just go through a dungeon normally. For instance, let's say you have a Scarlet system in place. Basically, it's 4 max skilled Scarlets. And 4 max skilled Scarlets allow you to basically use 1 Scarlet active every single turn, because the haste will cycle around and allow you to use them again in time. So basically, you can use Scarlet 1 on turn 1, 2 on turn 2, 3 on turn 3, 4 on turn 4, and on turn 5, you actually use the first Scarlet once again, and the cycle continues. So with that, you're able to basically guarantee yourself 4 fire orbs. If you had 2 to begin with, you can make your 6, make other combos, things die. So it's a very easy team to play in that regard, so this is beneficial. Now, you can obviously bring in other subs like, say, more Ares or Yamato, Sonatas, and so on and so forth to flood your board with more fire orbs, so you have team building options. So he's going to make a very fast and efficient farming leader, and if you're playing, say, in solo mode, you basically have 6 turns to kill things because 6 actives will blow things up. If you're playing co-op, you'd have 10 actives, so you can blow up 10 floors. Pretty amazing overall. And one other application for Yamamoto is future ranking dungeons where you can make 1 combo and blow up a floor. Pretty powerful overall. And next for the 6 stars is Hazen, and Hazen is a new top tier leader because he basically has an amazing kit all around. So for starters, he has 900 weighted stats, which is very healthy, and he actually is fully bind immune, can recover binds due to the recover bind awakening, and has 3 time extends, which are important for forming his leader skill. Now, his active skill provides wood to dark like Pandora, fire to heal, so that's different, and he changes his own attribute to dark for 4 turns. Now, his leader skill is interesting because he provides 6 times attack for dark, 2 times attack for water, and 2 times attack for each dark cross, so maximum 2 crosses in a 6x5 board. And this actually results in 576 times attack and 4 times recovery for water dark or dark water type or reverse water dark type monsters. Now, that's a pretty powerful leader skill, and we cannot forget that he actually has a passive 36 times all the time for dark monsters, because you don't have to actually match a dark cross, you can get 36 times damage passively. And that would be enough to kill lots of content in the game. Of course, if you had 5 dark orbs, 1 heart cross results in 144 times damage, so that's going to blow through most things. And if you need to completely overkill something, you make 2 dark crosses or 10 dark orbs, things die. So his kit is very synergistic because he has the time extend to form the crosses, he has bind immunity, he makes hearts, and he can clear binds with the row of hearts. So he's great all around. Now, changing his own attribute to dark obviously increases your damage capabilities, and if I'm not mistaken, because he is no longer a water-type monster, he technically loses out on his own 4 times recovery. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's how it works in this scenario. Now, when you are team building Hazen, you want to try and prioritize monsters who are dark water types, so like Awoken Haku, Dark Blue Okunashi, Dark Metatron, and Typhon all make viable subs for him, because they are gaining the massive damage to attack and 4 times recovery. Now, with that being said, 4 times recovery is somewhat overkill in most cases, and you could definitely get away with 1 or even 2 subs not having the water typing to take better advantage of their bodies or awakenings. And the best card in that regards would be Eshimali, because Eshimali grants you 7 Dark Orb awakenings and one of the best actives possible in the game. So she would be used on your teams as a non-dark water monster, and it just means he has more offensive capabilities because you have much more passive damage with even just 1 row because of all the orb enhances. So, last but not least I want to mention about him is that because your multiplier is 36 times unconditionally, you can actually power through content like, say, even Arena 1 very quickly, because you could mow through most of the trash floors with even a 3 or 4 orb dark match, and a cross for most floors, and then Callie's is 2 crosses and they're dead. Pretty amazing all around. One of those desirable cards in the collab, and it's a new addition, and it's pretty amazing, wonderful. And then last but not least for the 6-star roles is Rukia. And Rukia gained a new evolution which gave them additional awakenings, so an extra skill boost, which is very helpful for water, skill lock resist, which is completely redundant, and an extra TPA attack, or a brand new 2-prong attack. Their active skill still changes the left column into water and provides 1 turn haste on a 7-turn cooldown. So it has modest value, the active skill, but if you compare it to Nut, who's 4 turns for the same orb generation, it doesn't feel as amazing because you're basically sacrificing 3 turns of cooldown for a turn of haste. Debatable value in that regards, and it makes it more challenging to inherit a better active skill over top of them. With their new evolution, they actually have gained a revamped leader skill in that they are able to cap out 100 times damage for 8 combos while providing 4 times recovery for water. So this is actually a very fast scaling combo leader. 100 times and 8 combos is quite strong because in theory, any given board should almost always have 7 combos available, unless extreme luck dictates there'll be 6, but most of the time you'll have at least 7, maybe even 8. So you can pretty much proc Rukia every single turn if you're skilled enough. Now, the skill factor is a big deal for Rukia because they have very little time extend, and most of the subs you want to bring should have TPA because, yes, you are 100 times, but because you can't stack water orbs as efficiently as mono-color teams or mono-row teams, you'll have to make other combos, and TPAs is a way to add more damage to your team. So, like, it is a powerful leader skill, but you are very fragile. You can't survive large attacks, you need a shield because of that, and you also need some way to deal with binds. And with all that taken into consideration, it's going to be tough to team build Rukia because a lot of people want to use, say, Isis, Sheet, and Nut, and there's very little time extend across the whole team, so you may be hard-pressed to form those 8 combos, in all honesty. Like, yes, you could load up on time extend subs, but then they may not have the offensive capabilities to back it up, and that just becomes a problematic loop in that regards. So, like, they are a strong leader, but it just feels unfortunate because if they had gained a time extend, that would have been so much more important because it would make them easier to use. And the third skill lock resist is really redundant because 2 liters is 120% reduction. you really don't need that. Like, yes, you might be running, say, Nuts and Sheets who don't have Skillbind Resist, but you're overshooting the Skillbind cap, and it's wasting an Awakening slot. Like, anything else would have been better, in all honesty. Maybe it's to use Rukia as a sub on teams that don't have SBR, but most do in this case, especially with co-op, so it just doesn't feel meaningful at this point in time. So they are still a strong leader. They will be very fun to play, but they are challenging. And now we come to the 5-star roles, and Kenpachi received an extra row and skill boost, so they're marginally more valuable as a sub. Their active skill enhances all Dark Orbs and provides a single turn of delay. And that single turn of delay has value, but it's kind of a lackluster Dark Blue Okunashi's style active skill, because you may already have enhanced orbs on the board, so it may not be as impactful as a 50% increase in damage, plus he's a 10-turn cooldown, so he's a little longer by comparison, so it may have value, especially on 5-orb 1 enhanced teams like the future Yomi Dragon, especially if you lack the Haku Akachi combo, but it's just another good option, and of course you can always inherit him, but he makes a reasonable sub on his own. Next is Toshiro, and Toshiro is able... Who? Toshiro is able to form an entire board of Water Orbs and 1-turn haste on a 17-turn cooldown. He has 2 skill boosts, which is very important on water teams, and in all honesty, Toshiro will become a very luxury button team, because you can use him like an alternative to a Zeus Dios for mono water teams. And the best leader you can use is the future heroine Meridionalist, who has a very similar leader skill to Woken Liu Bei in that you want to connect lots of water orbs, and what makes her team superior in the sense is that there are no Skyfalls, so you basically use Toshiro's active swipe, and it's one combo. Nothing else will match, so your clear times are significantly faster. However, the odds of the average player rolling 3 or 4 of him is slim to nil, and most people are going to be better off with the Woken Liu Bei or even the Woken Liu Bei alternatives with Dioses. However, it's for those players who want to really min-max their time investment, because this team will be the fastest one available. Now, outside of that niche application, you may find use, say, on a Neptune Dragon team when he gets his new evolution in case you want to remove hazards, and 30 orbs and 100 times damage will do an explosive amount. But other than that, really a luxury-based card. Next is Kasuke, and he gained significant bonuses to his awakenings. He gained 2 additional wood rows and a skill bind resist. And his active skill is quite powerful. He makes the bottom row wood and 3 jammers at random at only a 4-turn cooldown. So this is great value. You can basically generate a row on demand very quickly. And it's trying to revitalize the jammer meta, but to be honest, a jammer meta is not really going to work in most scenarios. You need 5+ jammers to work. His active only makes 3, so it's just going to be awkward. I really wouldn't use him as a leader, but it's worth mentioning that the jammer meta was tried to be resurrected a little bit here, but doesn't really. So on mono wood teams, you can use Kasuke's active effectively, because you basically guarantee that wood row, and you can combo with Australis or Spica to take those unwanted jammer orbs into more wood. Now, 4 Kasuke's actually forms a system, because you are able to actually use 1 active every single turn. Again, rolling 4 of them is rare and just worth mentioning for players who either get very lucky or roll many times. And the next 5-star is Shifar, and Shifar is actually another gemstone style active skill. Can you pass me water, actually? Water? Is there water there?
No.
Okay, dang. Okay. But he has a gemstone style princess active, and he takes into consideration enhanced dark orb awakenings. And his the math for him is a little lower. It's 1 plus 0.2 n. And oh, thank goodness. This means if you have, say, 10 dark enhanced orb awakenings on your team, you gain 3 times damage. Naturally, with Eshimali available, you will be able to probably have significantly more dark orb enhanced awakenings, so let's keep that in the back of our mind as I go through the rest of them. Leader skill, it's not relevant. So, Shifar is a very powerful card because he has a gemstone princess style active because it lasts for 2 turns, and it's a very powerful damage enhance, especially when you can capitalize on numerous Eshimales. And this has the most applications on the future Yomi Dragon teams because that's a team that you probably would want to run 2 Eshimales, and even Sheikvar can be used as a sub because their awakenings are powerful, they're bind immune, they have 4 enhanced orbs, so they're contributing a lot to their own active skills, so they're actually a very powerful role all around. Like, they could be as an inherit or as a sub, so they have lots of value, and I feel like the future Yomi Dragon is starting to get more and more powerful sub options, so this is great overall for people who use Yomi Dragon. And next is Grimmjow. And Grimmjow, for all intents and purposes, is the most luxury push-button option available. So his active skill does a light attack based on your current health, so lower health results in 250 times attack on only a 6-turn cooldown. So he has the largest nuke in the game available, and he has probably the shortest cooldown corresponding to it. So this damage actually affects all enemies, and for example, on Grimmjow himself at max level with no pluses, he's able to hit 406,000 damage to all enemies. Now, if we inherit him onto a monster with higher attack that has plus eggs, or even the coveted co-op boost for certain farming builds, you are actually able to surpass over 1 million damage at the push of a button to all enemies. And this has applications for luxury Starden farming because you now can do actually 5 push buttons. You never actually have to go through any matching animations. So it's kind of a push button team's dream. But one thing you need to keep in mind is that his active skill does not penetrate through defenses, and it is not a true damage nuke. So for things with very high defense, you are not able to actually penetrate through them. So you're going to be using them for things like Starden mostly, basically buttoning up to 1 million damage on the right monsters. And now we're into 4-star territory. So these cards are actually still have some value because they all can be used for skill inheritance, and some of them are actually very powerful in their own right because they have unique active skills. Unfortunately, Rang Iku is not one of those. Their active skill provides a single turn of delay and plus 1 second of movement time for 2 turns. Now, that is one of the worst delays possible in the game. It has a 10-turn cooldown. It provides basically no collateral benefit unless you need to override time debuff. So it's just a poor inherit overall, and it's not going to have much use unless you have nothing better to use. Next is Yoriichi, and Yoriichi provides 2.5 times attack for wood types for 2 turns, and it does a very minor attack damage to all enemies and resets your health to 1 on a very short 8-turn cooldown. Now, this active skill is very powerful because if you don't own Gemstone Princesses, this is invaluable for wood teams because it's better than Awoken Freya because it's 2.5 instead of 2 times damage on a shorter cooldown because of the fact that you're setting your health to 1. So obviously you have to be careful when you use this enhance, but if you plan out your orb changes intelligently, you can heal up to full health in no time at all. And this is a great alternative, and it's a good option to roll for mono wood team users who lack a Gemstone Princess inherit. So she's worth pursuing because she's a 4-star and should be relatively common. Next is Ishida, and Ishida provides Light Skyfall for 2 turns and changes 3 random orbs to light. Now this is a unique active in that you're able to inherit a Light Skyfall onto certain monsters. You may not necessarily it may not necessarily be the most impactful active in the game, but it may have uses. It will help you for the next several turns, as well as at least spawning 3 light orbs. And in addition, it's only a 6-turn cooldown, so it's easy to inherit away, but Skyfall buffs are able to be used to override debuffs from various bosses, as well as baiting out status void attacks. So niche uses, but has some value. Not really worth pursuing, but it's not terrible overall. And next is Chad, and Chad is perhaps one of the strongest skill inheritance cards of any collab card in the game, because he changes the top and bottom row into fire on a 13-turn cooldown. Now, this is amazing because you're basically guaranteed 12 fire orbs in 2 rows. So, for instance, if you're playing, say, a Krishna team, you are able to have full activation because you have at least 9 fire orbs, but you are able to form a row and the 2 other fire columns by just shifting them around a little bit. So that will enable you to deal very high burst damage and is a great alternative to optimal board burst damage because optimal boards require 2 actives, and yes, this may not deal as much damage overall, but it's a great alternative because it's only a single active being used, and he can be inherited onto any monster to improve their active skills. Now, outside of fire teams, which obviously is a smart choice, Chad can be used as an inherit on, say, Awoken Liu Bei teams to overcome combo shields. Now, I say that because you use a Zeus Dios board, and then you actually use Chad afterwards. From there, you actually are very able to form multiple combos by just breaking up the row, as well as retaining a wood row somewhere for maximum 64 times damage. So it's a great card all around to own, and it's worth pursuing if you do use lots of Liu Bei, you want to min-max your efficiency, as well as mono fire teams for another inherit to utilize. So it's one of the strongest collab roles available, and I'm pretty happy with his design. And finally, we come to Oriheim, and Oriheim provides 35% damage reduction for 1 turn and changes 3 random orbs to heal on a 5-turn cooldown. Now, that's a pretty weak shield, in all honesty, and you probably would want to use a different active in most scenarios. However, you may want to use her as an inherit on a Heart Cross team if you are unable to actually survive certain executions, because you can do your Heart Cross and then stack her shield on top of it. That might be enough to actually make you survive certain execution hits. Now, if you are employing this strategy, I would highly recommend you do not skill her up, so that way you have a longer cooldown to better manage active skills, because you don't want her to override a more important active skill at the wrong time. So by leaving her unskilled, you can use her when you need that survival against execution, but then you don't run the risk of her capping out to that active skill in other scenarios. So niche, but it's worth mentioning. So in conclusion, the Bleach Collab rare machine is actually a very powerful one to roll in. There is plenty of value at the top, like basically Ichigo, the Fireman, and Hazen are all very powerful roles. Even Rukia as well. Like, there's tons of value in the 6-star category. The 5 stars are also pretty powerful in themselves, and there is value in the 4 stars through inheritance. So it is a collab worth rolling. You may want to roll a bit more liberally in this collab compared to other collabs, just because it is powerful. Like, you are getting value at all levels of rolls. It's not just top heavy, so this is good because you have distribution elsewhere. So let me know what you think about the Bleach collab. How much do you plan on rolling, and whether or not, or who you're hoping to actually roll. So this article will be in the YouTube description down below, so you can take a look and read through there. So I hope you have a Mantastic day. Best of luck rolling. Have a Merry Christmas, because this comes on Boxing Day, and happy puzzling.